I never planned on coming out. I planned on playing football until I couldn't play anymore. And quite honestly, I planned on myself.
How close did you come to yourself?
I wrote a letter.
Ryan played in the NFL for 6 years, even making the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. But that was never his dream.
I never loved football. I genuinely only played because I was gay and I thought it'd be a good cover.
If you know how tough it is to make the NFL, you understand how incredibly bad Ryan wanted to hide being gay. And that fear goes back to his childhood, where Ryan grew up in a conservative Catholic family.
You know, as soon as really the puberty years hit is when I realized I was gay for sure. Like most people with that realization, you try to figure out, is it a phase? Can you fix it? Can you change it? And I quickly realized that that wasn't going to happen. And because of the things I heard from my parents, not only my parents, but aunt and uncles, and I felt like that I could never come out.
Football was the most masculine thing I could do. So I decided to dedicate myself to football. So I did whatever I had to do to make it work.
He quickly became one of the best O-linemen in the state, and he took his talents to Cal, uniting with Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch.
Once I got to Berkeley, I quickly realized that, I'm basically starting a whole new life here. People don't know anything about me. Whatever I tell them, they're likely to believe.
But there was one question he couldn't answer. Ryan was becoming one of the best players on the team, winning the Morris Trophy, given to the best O-lineman in the entire Pac-12. So he had all the status, but 0 girls. And everybody kept asking him,
"Where's your girlfriend?"
So he came up with a plan.
In college, I got up to 372 pounds. I thought that making myself undesirable would be the best excuse not to be dating someone. I started picking up all these really nasty, stereotypically straight habits, chewing tobacco, and it worked.
After playing 5 years at Cal, he declared for the NFL draft. But there was one red flag, because Ryan couldn't stay healthy, leaving Cal with 4 shoulder surgeries.
I realized my draft stock, as they call it, started slipping a little bit. But at that point, Aaron was one of my best friends, and I had hired all the same people he hired, from his agent to his money people. Going into draft day, I was told I'm probably going to be a second-round pick, maybe third.
He fell to round 5, where the Patriots drafted him at pick 136.
I was real happy when I got out to New England. People are really only focused on winning. That really worked out for my situation, where I was able to just focus on football, and they were going to focus on football and not, the rookie. Why isn't he married? Why isn't he bringing a girl home when we all go out? Anytime people were focused on something besides me, I was happy.
This was kind of in the middle of their dynasty. So they weren't far removed from the Super Bowl. Brady was basically in his prime.
So nobody was worried about a 5th-round pick O-lineman.
It may sound silly to some, but a locker room is a great place to hide because you're just one of 100
the
people.
guys.
You're just one of the guys, and especially moving to a new city, you can tell them whatever you want, and there's no reason not to believe you. So,
I just said, I had a girlfriend back home, and there was no reason to question that. And once again, I wasn't out
totally.
trying to date guys or do anything like that. Actually, I did the opposite. I basically studied what stereotypical straight guys did, and I acted like I was into hunting and NASCAR and chewing tobacco, and I did the most crazy things. And it worked.
In the NFL, there wasn't a lot of homophobia. It was more guys talking about their, how many girls they got with, or the cheerleader, or the groupies. It wasn't, there wasn't a whole bunch of, or any gay bashing or anything like that.
I pretty much just tried to avoid it. I didn't know what I was supposed to be attracted to on a girl. A lot of people don't understand the gay mind, but I didn't know what I was supposed to find attractive.
And I never thought I was the only closeted player. I can look, at that time, I'd see other guys in the locker room, see kind of their habits, their patterns, and I'd be like, oh, they're closeted. I'm going to stay away from them so they don't figure me out.
That really surprised me. If Ryan had gay teammates, imagine how many gay players are in the NFL going through it all alone. And that goes beyond football, right? We all know what it's like to keep something in, including me. And that's why I decided to do a paid partnership with BetterHelp, a platform that makes starting therapy easier. I never felt the stress Ryan felt. For me, I get the most anxiety when I post a video. Like, I work on it for weeks and I have no idea if it might flop, and when it actually happens, it really, really pisses me off, like it carries into my everyday life. But what actually helped was talking about it and sharing why I felt that way. That's what BetterHelp is for. And it's really simple. You take a quiz and get matched with a credentialed therapist. You talk however you're comfortable, video, phone, or just text. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. Check it out. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/morethan-athletes to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Now let's get back to Ryan.
My biggest fear was getting caught. I would train myself, don't say this, say that, don't look here, look there.
I would avoid, a full shower, those situations that there was a lot of guilt feeling. If I accidentally look here or there, they're going to assume something. So I would try to avoid it.
For whatever reason, I was always paranoid and thought that I was going to be out at any minute.
And that was exhausting. He couldn't live this double life forever. So he came up with a dark plan.
My whole plan was just to end my life after football. I never planned on living. And when I was done with football, that was going to be it. I thought I couldn't ever be an out gay man. I didn't think my family would ever love me as an openly gay man. I thought they'd love me more as a dead straight man.
I started spending most of the money. I was trying to put myself in the worst possible position to back out of my plan.
So I'd go do something stupid and buy a $12,000 watch or something and be like, hey, look at that. Don't look at no girlfriend.
You tried to sabotage your future financially.
So I couldn't back out of myself.
However, on the field, Ryan played really good as a rookie, but he just couldn't stay healthy.
Urlacher nailed me in the side of the head, but my left ear touched my shoulder and I was out. I was blacked out. I couldn't feel anything. And
Callahan able to get up and walk off the field under his own power. A very good-looking rookie, 6'7", 330.
And I ended up being out for, I think, 5 or 6 weeks.
That was just the beginning. The injuries kept piling up. And although he had multiple surgeries, his shoulder was a mess. But in Ryan's mind, quitting meant the end of his life. So he kept fighting, even making the Super Bowl in 2007, where they lost against the Giants. But the next season, he tore his shoulder again, and the Patriots released him.
Then I go over to the Chiefs. I start my first year there. Once again, a series of injuries just kept adding up. I tore my left groin. So they pumped me full of painkillers. And anyone who's taken a painkiller realizes not only do they get rid of pain, but they give you this euphoric feeling. They basically make you not feel like yourself. And at that point in my life, I hated myself. So I would do anything not to feel like myself. Mind you, the team was prescribing me a good number of painkillers, but I was getting them off the street. I was taking tenfold outside of what the team was giving me. So, I was an absolute junkie. It was worse than abusing. I was an addict in every sense of the term. And in my mind, I'm thinking I got to do everything I can to get back out there. And so I got back out there. I managed to then tear my left shoulder again for the 5th time. I realized after that last shoulder injury, I wasn't going to play again. Mentally, I was at an all-time low. I knew my plan in my head. I knew time was running out. The clock that I really gave myself was running out.
Until one day, David Price, head athletic trainer for the Chiefs, noticed something off about Ryan.
I was in the NFL for 32 years, so you deal with athletes and when people are right and when they're wrong or aren't in a good place, and he just wasn't in a good place at that time in his life, and the only thing to do was to help him in the way that I felt needed to be helped.
And one morning he pulled me into his office and tried to spark up a conversation about me, personally, like what was going on. And if it wasn't for that intervention from him, I would not be here.
Yeah.
He suggested I go speak to a psychologist that the team had used. Up to that point in my life, I had really prided myself on controlling conversations and just being able to manipulate people in a way to either, not talk about me or just not talk about dating or girls or what have you. So I agreed to go speak to the therapist. Her name was Dr. Wilson. I met my match with her. She was pretty much the complete opposite, short, from the inner city. She wouldn't let me get away with my typical BS of gating around issues and trying to get my way. And after months of speaking with her, I was kind of at my wit's end. I was literally about to pull the trigger, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna have one more conversations with her. And so I called for a last minute meeting, and I finally, for the first time in my life, said the words, "I'm gay."
I mean, like I said, I never said those words. Never practiced saying those words, and She stood up, came around, gave me a hug, and told me I wasn't the first player to sit there and tell her that, which just felt amazing. To not feel alone goes a long way. Just letting someone know was kind of a relief, like, okay, so at least if something happens to me now, someone knows the truth. And
At that point, I told her my whole plan, committing suicide, and my fears of family and everything that made me feel that way. And she, kind of in more professional words, said, well, if you're just going to kill yourself, why don't you find out if you need to? I never stopped for 10 minutes to think, oh, okay, that makes sense. She pretty much helped me come up with a plan to come out to family and really see if my worst fears were true.
But before he faced the biggest fear of his life in telling his family, he wanted to tell Scott Pioli first, who was the GM of the Chiefs.
The 2 days before him coming in to see me, he had called, said, Scott, I got to come talk to you about something. Then the next day he calls me, Scott, I got to come talk to you about something. And then he calls me from downstairs, hey, Scott, I'm here. I just want to let you know I want to talk to you. So in my mind, I'm thinking, because he told me something very serious. And at that point, I had already known that Ryan had gone to get some help for alcohol and drug rehabilitation. So I was thinking that something really bad happened. That led up to him coming to my office, and I'm panicking, thinking, oh my gosh, what did he do? Is there something really big that happened? We had a little small talk, and then in the middle of the conversation, he tells me, well, Scott, I need to tell you I'm gay. I said, okay. So what did you come here to tell me about? Because it was, in his mind, he had built this thing up. In my mind, he had me worried about it, that it was something bad, right? And I'm not diminishing at all what he told me about the impact that it was going to have on his life, but I was more worried that he'd actually done something bad. Being gay is not doing something bad.
But at that point, I hadn't spoke to my parents in months. I was really struggling with my mental health and drug addiction and suicidal thoughts, and I was just pushing them out of my life to, make it easier on them if I followed through on my plans. So when I did reach out to them, they were happy to hear from me, but they didn't know what was going on. I went out to California, and it was just me and my parents sitting in the living room, and I made it very dramatic, because to me, this was the biggest thing I was ever saying, and it was their opinions that I cared about more than anything. So it took me quite a while sitting there across from them in the living room to actually say the words, I'm gay. I practiced my whole life not saying those words, and I dreaded their reaction my whole life. So when I did tell them, my mom stood up and gave me a hug, and she started crying and told me she loved me. And my dad, he gave me a hug, which was much better than I pictured. I pictured things getting thrown and getting kicked out of the house. And for my dad to just give me a hug and everything, it felt good. That's what I thought I needed at the time. Fast forward a little bit, I didn't even try to date or anything for over the first year. I had to get myself together, and it took me dating the first person for my dad to even bring it up. For that first year and a half after I came out, we didn't talk about it. But really, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, because I wasn't, living a gay life or anything. But I think as soon as he saw me with someone, it became real. And the first thing he said to me that opened that line of communication, he said, after an event that I took a guy to, he said, Brandon seemed nice. So that was kind of his way of, to me, letting me know, okay, it's okay. He's come around. He liked the guy. And that from then on, we've had a pretty open line of communication. And, we're now to the point where my dad tells me he's proud of me for the different things I'm doing to try to help others.
It still took Ryan some time to make it public. But 5 years later, after telling his parents, he felt ready and told the world.
And when I came out, it was an overwhelmingly positive experience. I put my email out there, and I didn't receive any negative comments on there. And I expected a few, but I to this day, I still haven't received any. And I heard from a lot of ex-players and even a team owner, and I was surprised by that. Well, few ex-NFL players, even a Pro Bowler, reached out to me. Still in the closet.
I can promise you there's guys on every team. I hear from them all the time.
Yeah.
Some of your favorite players, best in the league, are closeted. So don't fool yourself thinking that they're not. Roger Goodell reached out, and I've met with him. He's a great guy. Actually, his brother's gay.
Ryan was ready to die, rather than find out what would happen if he came out. But his biggest fear turned into the best thing that could ever happen to him.
I was close. If it wasn't for some good friends, a couple good dogs, I'd be gone. The freedom I feel now is hard to put into words. I'm closer now with my family than ever, and I was totally wrong about everything. I just never gave them the chance to accept me until the very last minute.
if you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button so I can make many more. Have a blessed day.